Hello, friends. I'm Kanchan from Akulmek Technologies, and you are welcome to our show, Great Kings of India. Today, we have an eminent historian, Mrs. Meeta Joshi, who is a head of the department of one of the prestigious college, St. Anne's College at Hyderabad. And today, we'll be discussing another interesting king of our history. So, welcome to the show, Meeta ji. How are you today?
Namaskar, Kanchan. I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, Mitaji. And as you know, that we'll be discussing about Dynasty Empire, and which is a Magda Empire controlled by controlled at North Central Eastern India as well as part of Northwest now Pakistan. So we'd like to listen, and our viewers will also like to know about the great kings who established this empire after the fall of Mauryan Empire.
Okay. See, this Shunga Empire was founded by Pushyamitra Sunga, and he was the first ruler of the Sunga dynasty. And how he became the king is he assassinated the last Mauryan ruler, Brihadat Maurya, in a military review, and then he declared himself as a king and established this new dynasty, which was known as Shunga dynasty. And this was a totally Hindu dynasty, okay? Because in Mauryan Empire, if you remember, Ashoka was too much inclined toward Buddhism. But in this dynasty, Shunga dynasty, Pushyamitra Sunga followed Hinduism and he was a staunch Hindu. He performed many Ashwamedh yagnas or sacrifices, and some of the Buddhist texts they also say that he persecuted many Buddhist monks because he wanted only Brahmanism to prevail. He never wanted that Buddhism should come up. But again, there are two theories in this. Some Buddhist texts say that he persecuted the Buddhist monks, but some texts they state that he was not brutal towards the Buddhist monks. Okay, now as I told you, he was previously the Senapati, the general of the Mauryan army. So he knew all the tactics and techniques of the war, and to establish his kingdom, he used the same all these war techniques, all whatever he has learned in the Mauryan Empire, he implemented those policies of administration. He implemented the same things in the military expeditions which happened, and many inscriptions which we found of the Sungas, they are found in Ayodhya, in Uttar Pradesh, and it in the even in the Punjab, in the northwest, and in those inscriptions, some of the inscriptions, it is mentioned that he did persecute the Buddhist monks, and he after him, his son Agnimitra, he succeeded the Shunga dynasty after the death of his father Pushyamitra Sunga. In around 148 BC, he came. The 185 BC, Pushyamitra Sunga ascended the throne, and in 148 or 149 BCE, Agnimitra, the son of Pushyamitra Sunga, he ascended the throne. Now, Agnimitra was a very dynamic king, and he was the subject of many works of Kalidas. Kalidas, as you know, was a famous poet of that time. So, in one of his epics known as Malvika Agnimitra, Kalidas has written about the love story of Agnimitra and Malvika. So that way, he was also the subject for many poets, Agnimitra, for that matter. And the Vayu Purana and Brahmand Purana also mention his name, and they say that for around 8 years he ruled. Who? Agnimitra. Okay. And according to Kalidas in Malvika Agnimitram, Agnimitra belonged to Baimbika family, while the Puranas mention him as a Shunga. So here little conflict is there, because Kalidas gives a different picture, but the Puranas, they confirm that he was from Shunga dynasty. He was the son of Pushyamitra Shunga. And in Malvikagni Mitra, Kalidas has also told that he had three queens, three wives, Dharani, Iravati, and Malvika. So Malvika was the princess of Vidarbha. And this Malvika Agnimitra is the story of Agnimitra and Malvika, which Kalidas has written in his epic. Now, Agnimitra, according to the epic Malvika Agnimitra written by Kalidas, Kalidas writes in his book that a war broke out between the Shungas and the neighboring state Vidarbha during Agnimitra's reign. And before the rise of the Shungas, Vidarbha had become independent from the Mauryan Empire. Till Ashoka had not fought the Kalinga war, he was very, very ambitious, and he was into many conquests. But after the conquest of Kalinga, there was a hard change of Ashoka, and he stopped waging wars altogether. So that time, Vidarbha declared themselves independent from the Mauryan kingdom. And this one war was there where a former Mauryan minister put his brother-in-law Yajnasena on the throne of Vidarbha, and Madhavsena, a cousin of Yajnasena, he asked help from Agnimitra in overthrowing his cousin, but was captured while crossing the border of Vidarbha, and he was imprisoned. So Agnimitra demanded the release of Madhavsena, and in return, Yajnasena demanded the release of the former Mauryan minister who had been captured earlier by Agnimitra. So it was a sort of, this give and take type of a agreement. Instead, Agnimitra, what he did, he sent his army to invade Vidarbha, and Yajnasena was defeated and forced to divide Vidarbha with Madhavsena. And both cousins recognized the suzerainty of the Shunga rulers, that time Agnimitra, and this shows that he was an able military leader, because he made Vidarbha to come under his suzerainty, the kingdom of Vidarbha to come under his suzerainty. And if we see, many historians have written about the Shunga Empire in detail, like Rai Chaudhary, Professor Rai Chaudhary, in his book Political History of Ancient India, he has mentioned about the Shunga dynasty, about Pushyamitra and Agnimitra. Then Lahiri, in his book Indigenous States of Northern India, he also has described about the might of the Shungas. But it was a very short-lived empire, the Shunga Empire, because after them, the Kanvas, the Kanva dynasty came into being. And same thing, Kanva was also a general with Pushyamitra Shunga. So he declared himself independent, and then a new dynasty was established, that was Kanva dynasty.
Okay,
So
so actually,
yeah.
I've heard, I've read somewhere that Dev Bhuti, who was the first, who was the last king of Sanga dynasty, was assassinated by Kanwa dynasty king. Now,
Yes,
when we
yes.
talk about this Sunga dynasty, and you see, it came in existence after the fall of Mauryan Empire. So, what we really think about those times, what people used to be like that, reacting to this change. Because as I was reading few books, it says that there's lot of impression of Persian art at that point of time, and he is like, as you mentioned, Kalidas has been given free hand to write good things about the king and the queen. So, what
Hmm.
kind of culture existed at that point of time during this era?
See, when Mauryas were there, because Ashoka was a great propagator of Buddhism, so mostly people followed Buddhism. But because Ashoka was a very tolerant king, he never forced anyone to convert to Buddhism. So Brahmanism or Hinduism, Jainism, they all existed, contemporarily. But when this Shunga rule came, then the emphasis was more on Hinduism than Buddhism. That's why some of the text they say that he, and one of the inscriptions also says that he persecuted the Buddhist monks who Pushyamitra. So Hinduism was a dominant religion in both dynasties, Sunga and Kanva. Okay, and after that, after Kanva, Satvahanas they came. So Satvahanas was one of the biggest Hindu kingdoms of India after Vijayanagar Empire. So Brahmanism was on the rise that time, and because the kings they performed many Ashwamedh sacrifices
Hmm.
to confirm their superiority, okay, over the people. So that means the people who were in the empire they were happy. There was no discontent. Only because whenever these military conquests happened, naturally the public will be disturbed because they will march towards the fields, and all that destruction, indirect destruction will happen. So that was a very obvious thing to maintain the dignity of the empire. But otherwise, people were happy under the rule of Pushyamitra Sunga and Agnimitra also.
So, this whole dynasty ruled approximately few years from 185 BC to maybe 73 BC,
Yes,
and
till the Kanwa rule was established.
yeah, so I think this is an era where approximately 10 rulers of Sunga dynasty rule. So I can safely
Yes,
say that is kind of establishment of Hindu religion. When you see, then in Mauryan Empire there was establishment and propagation of Buddhism, but now
Buddhism. Yes,
this is a dynasty which establish Hinduism and give rise of Brahminism and Hinduism in that era.
Buddhism was Hinduism was already there, Kanchan, because in all the empires which existed before Mauryas also, only you get some Greek influence because of the Greek invasions. Alexander came in 326 BC, and then later, after all these dynasties, these Ghazni and Ghorid invasions. So Hinduism was there, but it was given preference in these dynasties, the Shunga and Kanva dynasty, because the founder of Kanva dynasty, Devbhuti, he also followed Hinduism, and he came to rule in 75 BCE. He also followed Hinduism. And after Kanva dynasty, then came the Satavahanas. They were staunch Hindu rulers. So
Okay.
with the Hinduism was there, but because of these two religions, Jainism and Buddhism, it was overshadowed a bit.
Right. So when we talk about these two great kings, Pushmitra and Agnimitra, so what are those one or two significant aspect of their rule, which really we can cherish? We can. What is the impact of that era?
Uh, if you see broadly, they followed the Mauryan administration model itself. Because as I told you, Pushyamitra was the Senapati of the Mauryas before he assassinated Brihadat and came to rule. So they followed the same model of administration. Only thing which was more dominant in the Shungas and Kanvas times was Hinduism, which was not there in the time of Ashoka, because he adopted Buddhism and he did a lot of work in the propagation and of Buddhism and preaching Buddhism, not only in India but outside India also. So that was the only major difference you can say. And
Okay.
because the Mauryan, the extent of Mauryan Empire was already very large, so Pushyamitra, he enjoyed, that vast empire. But because many of the kingdoms like Vidarbha, they declared themselves independent after Ashoka, because after Ashoka, we don't find any very prominent rulers in the Mauryas. So small states, they came up like mushrooms. Okay, so small states, they declared themselves independent and they said this is our this thing, our area. So that also happened. So disintegration of Mauryan Empire also happened. Shungas and Kanvas, they were not able to maintain that huge empire. So independent kingdoms,
Mm.
they started springing up. Because when you go back to the Mauryan times, and before that also the 16 Mahajanpadas which were there earlier, and then there was an integration of those Janpadas by Chandragupta Maurya. Then again, independently, they came up. This was the major difference.
Yeah, so I think that after the fall of a huge empire, which is Mauryan Empire, and there's a rise of small kingdoms, and they have given more of stability to that to the people at that point of time. And a part of this, as you mentioned, the Kalidas, so rise of literature, and that too based on the Hindu philosophy. I think that is the contribution of these two great king of this particular
Yes, lot
dynasty.
of work in literature, art, architecture happened in that time, no doubt about it.
So we'll be discussing about more once we have already covered and discussed about the Singha Empire and the great two kings of this empire. In our next episode, we'll be discussing about Kanva dynasty, who defeated this king. And till then, you take care. Bye bye. See you.
Thank you, Kanchan.